Once again, this is yours truly, D Mecca, representing my girl, ESP Speaks. So sit back, relax, as we take you on a journey. I'm your DJ for the night, D Mecca. You can catch me on Good Morning Soul, Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on www.shestheboss.com. But in the meantime, in between time, sit back, relax, as we get ready for today's host, the lovely Miss ESP Speaks.
Good evening and welcome to ESP
and JAXS
Speaks. How are you this evening, JAXS?
I am good. How are you this evening, ESP?
You know, this is what COVID does. I had another 2 deaths this week, and it's just the first week of January.
Yep, I did too.
It's not even somebody that, sadly, you hear about deaths of people you know, and then you hear of deaths and it is people that you know. Do you feel what I'm saying when I said that?
Yes. And, with all the death that we've experienced, I don't know about you guys, but that I've experienced in 2020, and then to have New Year's Day, to hear of another friend die on that day, I think with COVID numbers as they are, that we are all becoming a little bit immune to the numbers. And I would just urge us not to become immune to these numbers at all.
You know what the disturbing thing is that it's not only the COVID numbers, there are regular deaths mixed in with that, because there are people who die of heart attacks, there are people who die of cancer, there are people who die of natural causes that are all mixed in together that are becoming a part of COVID numbers, because they're really not weeding out what's happening. Like, one of the deaths was COVID related, but the other one was something that the person had been dealing with for years, and it just became the end of that situation. I mean, it was still tragic nonetheless, because it was a young person and it hurts so much. It's just, honestly, there's just so much hurt. Are we becoming immune to the hurt, JAXS?
No. Personally, no. I'm not becoming immune to the hurt. Nope.
Because I find myself crying. I mean, I cry, but it's not as much now. It's like I expect every day that I wake up, there's going to be another person. And you just kind of prepare yourself. It's weird. It's so weird.
Well, that's where I say, I think some of us may be becoming immune to the numbers, but I try to make it a purpose to see how many every day, because they are not numbers, they are people. They are people.
Yeah. All right, on a happier note. Oh my goodness. Oh, we were going there. Let's not go there. This month, January, it's blood donors drive, and that's important. So you know what? We all need to get out and give blood because JAXS, prior to the COVID pandemic setting in, people were going on a regular basis and giving blood, and there were blood drives. But when we were locked up in shutdown, shelter in place, people weren't giving blood anymore, and now we're feeling the adverse effects of that in the long term. Of course, after we started coming back out into the public, people still weren't giving blood because of COVID. Everything that we don't do is because of COVID. But now, people, we got to get back into the hospitals. We got to get back into these blood donor centers and give blood, because let's say someone is in a car accident and they have to go into surgery. We need to give blood. Even in situations where women are giving birth, sometimes there's an adverse where they have to take them into a C-section and they put them under, and sometimes they need blood. So this is really important. We have to go and do that. But as you were saying, JAXS, you were talking about the people who have had COVID and how important their blood is.
Right. Because you have the antibodies, and they use the antibodies for palliative measures, for people that, well, it's the same thing that the head Cheeto in charge got. But your blood is important, especially important.
I'm gonna fight you. You can always, even in the worst situation, and this is why I love you, you can always find a way to make me crack a smile. The head Cheeto in charge.
That's who he is.
I can't with you. I can't. But thanks for the laugh. Boy. Oh my gosh. All right, so let's move on. Anything else of interest in the news from your perspective? Because I know you're a news junkie. We're both news junkies, but you love to handle it. So what else is happening?
Well, the head Cheeto in charge, I will say that I credit him for making me more politically aware. But I'm sure we've all heard about the phone call, haven't we?
Oh boy, here we go.
The 1 hour long phone call that I listened to in its entirety. And basically, this call sounded like a crime boss calling another faction and trying to coerce them into finding 11,780 more votes in order to steal this election. So he had the smarts, he and his team of Mark Meadows and whoever else was there with him, to call a one consent state, Georgia, which means when you record a call, you don't have to ask the other party for permission. And the Secretary of State thought that it would be a good idea to record the call.
And then he goes, we just need a certain amount of votes, just with one more.
Right.
He asked for one more extra vote.
He give me a break, is what he said. So the Secretary of State has been getting some backlash about why he recorded this call. Was it to oust the president? And he basically said it was recorded, not from his house, but once the president went on Twitter and lied about the conversation, that's when they decided to release the call to let people know the truth. Like the administrator for voting services in Georgia, he came out and had a press conference and just basically called it Whack-A-Mole Monday and had a list of everything that Trump lied about and every claim that they debunked, and went down line item by line item. So it's going to be interesting come tomorrow. That's for sure.
Okay. I can't keep up with all of this crap. It's like Watergate all over again. Well, we'll be checking in with you again on all of that. But in the meantime, I want everybody to know right now you're watching us on Facebook Live or you're on YouTube Live. You could possibly be on Periscope Live, and you also might be on Twitch. But in the event that you can't sit with us for the entire hour, there are several platforms that you can repeat this broadcast. We are also on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube once again. We're also on TuneIn and Anchor, Breaker, Radio Public, Twitch, Stitch, Overcast, Pocket Cast. Jeez, is that enough for you, Jax?
Can you fit like 2 or 3 more in there, please?
I just might. You know what? I might, because I've been looking for a couple of more. In the event that you want to send us an email, you can send us an email at esp@espspeaks.com, or you can hit us up on Instagram at ESP Real Talk. You can also hit us up on Twitter at ESP Speaks and Speaks ESP. Or you can just hit our regular Facebook page and check in for all of our correspondence and so on our regular Facebook page at ESP Speaks. Hey, Jax, remember we had a challenge last week where we were looking at that film, which I actually watched again, but for some reason can't remember the name of it. The Social Dilemma. The Social Dilemma. That was disturbing. I watched it with the kids and I watched their reaction to it, and they were like, wow, is that what we've been doing? We're not going to give it away though, but
right.
Everybody, you need to go watch that film. It was very important, and there are prizes on the line. So we're just giving you all time to watch it, and then we're going to be checking in, and JAXS is going to be doing some prizes online, some giveaways. When she asks questions, and you have to be able to answer the questions. So, did we cover everything, JAXS?
I think we did.
All right. So you know what?
Do you think it's time for a break?
I think it's time for a break. You know, and thank you. We also do low-cost commercials. If you guys need a commercial done, we can put something together for you to run through the shows. And we also have a following of over 40,000. So your commercial will get watched. We'll run it a couple of times during the course of a month, but give us a buzz. We'll sit down and talk about it. We'll prepare something for you, and we'll run it for you as well. But in the meantime, let's take one of those breaks, and we'll be back in a second. JAXS, you gonna come back and hang out with me?
2 and 2.
Okay. Stay tuned.
The bakery on Bergen is located in the heart of Prospect Heights. The owner, Kim Van, says her sign outside says it all.
I like to change my sign every 1 or 2 weeks. Right now it says, we sprinkle a little bit of Black Girl magic on everything. That sign definitely lets people know that a Black woman owns the bakery. So it brings people in.
A former teacher and mathematician, Van says it's more than a place to get a sweet treat. It's a place to feed young minds, offering math classes to children in the community.
Classes have always been important, but in particular now with the pandemic, I think it's even more important. Many children are learning remotely. This is a safe space.
Baking is something that is a science. More than any other thing in cooking is more of a science, more of an exact science, understanding techniques, formulas we don't often see in everyday translation, but she's been able to show these kids that.
She teaches math with baking together.
That's very impressive. Yeah, that's so cool. Women can do it all.
Van says it's such a chaotic time. People are looking for a little pick-me-up. She has a sweet solution.
I also make a Mary J. Blondie, a Foxy Brownie, but people like the chocolate chip cookies with smoked sea salt.
Her specialty is her rum cake.
If you ever had any Jamaican relatives that love rum and sweets, this is straight from the native land. This is it has that kick to it.
You're gonna come here and you're gonna feel good. You're gonna want to stay. You're going to want to have a conversation. You're going to meet dynamic people here. It's the silver lining to this pandemic, because we want to champion good times.
I want to welcome you all back to ESP
and JAXS Speaks.
Okay, ESP, I know you got something good for us this week. So please tell us all who is in the spotlight.
Oh boy, do I. We are going to be funding our purpose. I have the most fabulous guest. First of all, her name is Denise Clark. And she is a fundraising specialist with a couple of secrets up her sleeve. She's going to show us how to unlock the industry to get the funds to finally fund our purpose, the things that we've been dreaming about, the things that we want to do, the businesses that we want to build. She's going to let you know where the money is out there and how to go get it. So I'm excited, Jax. I'm really excited.
I'm excited too because I can use some tips on funding my purpose. So before you start the interview, I just want to say hello, Denise. Welcome to ESP and JAXS Speaks. And I am so excited to hear this interview.
And family, we're here with the most dynamic speaker. I tell you, when she starts talking, buckle up because you're going to get so much information. I need you to go get a pen and a piece of paper because you're going to need to jot down a lot of the things that she has to say. Because this evening, we are going to change life. We are going to restructure our thinking and address our dreams as we learn to fund our purpose with Denise Clark. Denise, welcome again, sweetie. I'm so glad to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me. This is an important topic for me. And I always feel privileged to be able to be in a position where I can share what knowledge I do have and help people on their own paths.
Well, I'm so glad that you were able to fit me in because I was so excited when I heard that I could get you. So I know that you've got a busy schedule, and thank you again for taking time to sit with me and JAXS. But I'm going to jump right in, and I'm going to ask you my first question, which is, what do we need to do to figure out whether we have an idea that can be formulated into something that can be constructed? What's a good idea in your field? What's a good idea?
A good idea comes from passion, and it comes from knowing that this is something I want to do, and you know that there are other people who can benefit from it as well. But you have to know and do your research to say whether it's a fundable idea. That's the thing. We all have a lot of things that we want to do. We think we have, the next big idea in terms of a TV show, the latest outfit, latest sneaker, but it takes a lot of work and a lot of information because there are a lot of people out there who have a lot of great ideas, but that doesn't mean your idea isn't great, and it doesn't mean that it can't be funded, and it doesn't mean it can't be successful.
So essentially, there are ideas that belong under an LLC type of situation, and then there are ideas that belong under a grant donation fundraising situation.
Right.
Those are the ones that more feed the community.
Right. There's two types. There's the nonprofit field, and then there's the for-profit field. Sometimes they do cross because you have a lot of for-profit organizations that are doing social good as well as making a profit. But then there's also the nonprofit field where it's more of, I'm having an impact on my community. I'm having an impact on this population. It's less about the profit. The profit is how you're actually benefiting the people you want to serve.
So let me throw this at you. Let's say I wanted to, because I have early childhood experience in terms of teaching, and I also have a music degree. Let's say I wanted to enhance the musical abilities of the children in a radius of 50 miles of my neighborhood. And in doing so, I wanted to have maybe a homework program that also had a music program where I could teach, after they finished their homework, I could teach them violin, piano, they could do vocal lessons, just something to give them a taste of the arts, painting, and maybe even in doing so, dip into other areas like sustainability in terms of teaching them how to garden, teaching them how to plant fresh vegetables so that they can have something to take home and add to their family situation. Would those points of interest hit the levels by which someone would donate or I could ask for a funding for?
Yes. Know that there's going to be 3 questions that you're going to have to answer in the fundraising field. Who says so? Who says that this is needed? Who says that this is an area that where there's the potential for people to do good? Who's saying that there's a need in this particular community? Research data is what's going to tell you that. Who cares? Well, that's how you know what the community needs. You're finding out that this community really needs that. They don't have this in their neighborhood. They don't have an organization that's doing it, or they might only be able, the organization that's doing it may only be able to serve 20 or 30 kids, and there is a list of 500 kids who need the service. That one organization can't help them. So your research is telling them the data out there about what impact the arts have on children, how it helps with their creativity, how it helps them to connect with their peers, how it helps them in terms of their mental health, in terms of dealing with stress levels. That's the need that's saying, and you have the research that's out there. You're making your case that I know that it's a need. I know that there's a benefit to offering this. I know that there's no one else or there's not enough people doing it. I can do this, and this is what I'm going to do. If you fund me for this, the return is this is how this community is going to benefit.
So question, are most of these people or companies that are providing funding, are they necessarily looking for community involvement, or is it about the dollars and cents for them?
Most people think that it's about the dollars and cents, but they are interested in the well-being of the community, because that's also, who they're selling to. That's also who they're trying to reach. So they need a healthy public. So there is the connection between the two.
Okay, so other than those questions in the beginning, are there any other preparatory things that we need to do outside of the research? What about paperwork? What about my financial health? If I'm doing it on an if I'm doing it on an individual basis as opposed to being a corporation, or maybe I'm a 503c. What does my financial health, or how does my financial health play into the whole situation?
So if you're starting as an individual, I always tell people to start small, because a nonprofit, a foundation, a corporation is not going to give $100,000 to someone whose individual net worth may be 40,000. They want to know that you can handle that kind of money. But that doesn't mean that the door is closed. That means partnerships is where it comes in. This is the perfect time to partner. The perfect time, because people recognize that those individuals and those smaller nonprofits that are on the ground are closest to the problems, and that means that they're also closest to providing the solutions. So
I'm going to ask you to be more specific with the partnership for our listeners, because I know what you're speaking about, but the important thing is they have to know what you're speaking about. So give me an example of a partnership situation where they, as an individual, because most of my listeners are individuals who really have brilliant ideas that can affect the community, but they don't understand that they should partner up with XYZ in order to push the idea forward. So be very specific with a partnership.
So I live in South Jamaica, St. Albans, Queens. I'm an individual. I want to do I want to do a community garden. Frankly, I don't really see enough fresh produce in my area. The closest farmers market is several bus stops away. I would like to be able to have fresh fruits and vegetables in my neighborhood, but I don't have the capacity to start to create a garden myself. But here's what I do know. There's a church over here. Let me work with you, because the church already is established. Let me work with you and partner with you. Let me help you, in terms of getting a garden going. I can partner with you as an individual. There's a school over here. Let me work with you to get an urban garden in the school. They get funding for doing that. I'm an individual. I'm part of the community. Let me go to the public library. They have grounds outside. I want to help, kids know more about healthy eating. Maybe I could help them in terms of we can plant some blueberries or strawberries. And now you're building up your relationship. They have more of the connections to the foundations and corporations, and they can build you into that, into their whole portfolio. And then as you start to grow, you'll be known and recognized, and then have a resume for that.
Okay, so that's how the individual. So now let's flip the script. And I'm already a 503.
Mm-hmm.
And now how am I going about it? Because my 503 deals with exactly what I had mentioned before, with the outreach for children and the early education. So now, do you recommend still that I partner with another 503, or am I stable enough to move forward on my own?
I think you do both. You partner because building that up. But here's two other ways in which you're going to go after funding. So you have the Foundation Center, which has a list of all foundations and corporations that fund nonprofits. What you're going to do is you're going to go in and do a search, and you're going to do a search on community-based funders. And those are usually the ones that are what we call hyper-local, which means that instead of them funding maybe all of New York State, they're going to fund New York City and sometimes just in your borough. So they're called the hyper-local funders. That's one way of going and getting that type of funding. The second one is you go to www.grant.gov. And when you go there, go to the Office of Faith-Based and Community, it's Office of Faith-Based Initiatives. I believe that's what it is.
Are you saying faith as in FAITH? Faith?
Faith.
Okay. Faith-based.
Community-based initiatives. That's what it is. And that was created over 10 years ago by the federal government to give more community-based and faith-based organizations an opportunity to access funding on the federal level, because they felt at the time that too much of the government's money was going to the larger nonprofits and not to the ones who were on the ground, the grassroots organizations. Mm-hmm. So that's the other area that you're going to go to. And they have a ton of funding. And if you happen to be in New York City or New York State, there's an additional benefit that you have. Get registered as if you're a woman or minority-owned business, get yourself registered as a certified women minority-owned business. That is because I believe it was maybe 7 or 8 years ago, the city and the state signed into law that any organization that receives state money over $100,000 must allocate 30% of their grant towards community or minority or women-owned business. For the city, it's the same thing. And if you fall into multiple categories, you're a woman who is also a veteran, you get extra points. It's amazing that there's a lot of money that goes into a lot of these larger organizations, but they say, I just don't have access. I can't find the smaller organizations that can help me. It's because you're not registered. So get registered.
Is this purposely, I don't want to break your flow, but I actually have to because we have to get into the meat and potatoes of this. You gave dates. This is clearly something that didn't happen yesterday. This has been something that's been on the books. Why is it, and I know the answer, but once again, for the family that's listening, because they're not aware, why is it that they keep these things so hush hush that where do we get this information? Where, other than me having you on this show, how would my audience know that this even exists? Why are they not advertising this? Why are they not talking about this? Is this something that you would go into your local district leader's office and you should be able to sit down and talk to them about? How come we don't have access to this information on a regular or normal basis?
It's because of where they're placing the information. They're placing it in the same trades that we don't look at. They're advertising it on the same lines that we don't listen to. They're saying that we're advertising, but they still are not, they're not looking at where it's going. I will give you an example. 20 years ago, I worked with an organization where 25% of its programming was based in Africa. Yet there was only one Black person who was a community, one. And I happened to have been in human resources at the time. And so my question was, how come you can't find, where are the Blacks? I know that they exist. I know that there are Black engineers and nurses and doctors. Oh no, we're advertising. I said, give me your advertising list. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking at the list and they're sending it out. Surely Columbia, Harvard, NYU. But if their population of minorities is 3%, what do you expect the return to be when you advertise these open positions? Why are you not sending it to Howard? Why are you not sending it to Clark Atlanta? Why are you not sending it to the Association of Black Nurses? Why are you not sending it to the Association of Black Accountants? Where you choose to send this information tells me how much you really want us involved in the process.
Mm-hmm. Which brings me to my next question. And this is, I don't know, this is iffy. Where, in the event that these funds are not received by the intended demographic and not used, because remember you said that the companies have a fiscal responsibility to a certain percentage going to that group, what do they do with it? It just disappears, they fold it back in, they give it to somebody else. What normally happens?
What normally happens, unfortunately, is they will post it because they will say we've made a good faith effort in trying to reach the organizations. But again, it's where you're posting it. And if you make a good faith effort and no one comes forward, then you can still move forward. But it's, they're taking a little bit of time. We set it out for 3 months. We didn't get any returns back. Nobody applied. So now, we still have to do the project. My thing is, no, I'm going to challenge you. Okay, now I'm going to let people know this is where you go to find out about this information. This is what you need to do in terms of accessing this information. Every city has an office of minority business. Go there, get on their listserv. You will get email notices every week about new openings, new grant opportunities, new funding opportunities. More importantly, get on the list for your local legislators and get on the list for nonprofit organizations. Why? Because they will tell you what their interests are if they've shifted their focus. Once you know that, you're prepared well in advance before they even say the money's going to start being allocated.
So now let's get to the meat and potatoes. We've done the research. We've seen that we meet all the criteria. I fit in all of the boxes. Financially, I'm in a good place where I'm even with what their prospectus is that I should be as an individual and as a 503, and I'm ready to go. I often hear people having grant writers. Is this something that we need to have, or is this something that you should be able to do for yourself? Because those grants have a lot of twists and turns in them. So what do you recommend, given this is your field? What's the best thing to do?
I would say first, if you can, learn how to write grants. It's not as hard as people think. And you want to make sure that you know what's being said about you and your organization. You can always hire someone, but then you're going to need to hire someone for the next one and the next one and the next one. I moved from human resources to grant writing, and I didn't know the first thing about writing a proposal. I literally was in a group where they were talking about, oh, we can do a logic model, here's the outcome, and I'm sitting there with my hand up. I don't get what you're saying. I have no idea. Someone clued me in and said, you're going about it the wrong way. Go onto the government websites and sign up to be a peer reviewer. And a lot of it is done online at home. It is the best learning experience that you will get. And not only do you not have to pay for it, they will pay you.
Okay, so let's hone that in. How do we get them there? They go to www.nyc.gov and type PEER.
www.grant.gov. You want to go on the federal site because they have the most peer reviewers. And what you do is you can Google peer reviewers for federal grants.
So that's PEER.
Yes.
Reviewers for federal grants. Okay.
And I signed up with the Administration for Children and Families. And it's time consuming, but it's the best learning experience that you will get. You will be put on a review panel with 2 to 3 other people. You'll have a facilitator, and you'll get about anywhere from 8 to 15 grants to review. And what's great about it is you'll learn writing styles. You'll learn how people are actually receiving information. Know one thing about a grant. That is going to tell your whole story. You won't have a chance to say, but I meant to say that. Either it's in writing or they won't know it. And so you have to know how to say it in a way that conveys what you're hoping to achieve, what you're hoping to accomplish. You're telling your story, but it's a story that has very strict parameters. That's why it's great to be a peer reviewer. You do a peer review twice, you will know how to write a grant.
Okay. So family, basically, Denise, I'm sorry, I'm going to segue for 1 second and talk directly to them. You got to do some work, and it's your dream. It's your thought process. It's your purpose that you're funding. So isn't the work worth it? So all of these sites that she's been talking about and all of this information, I'm going to make sure that we have on our site, and I'm actually going to have it typed in the comments field as we go along. But really hone in and listen to what she's saying. You got to get up and do the work. You got to learn how to write the grant Again, you can do it for free. Why hire somebody who you're going to have to question, or they're going to have to quantify to your information anyway? So learn how to do it yourself. And obviously, this is a process. But wait, you've been waiting for years. You've been thinking about this for years. Now's the time. So spend the extra time and do it correctly. Denise, back to you, darling, because this is amazing. I mean, the information is right in front of our face, and we're belly aching. Oh my goodness, I don't know what I want to do with my life. I don't know what I can do. What was me? And it's right here. So by all means, back to you.
The second way you can do it is if you don't have the time to devote to reviewing 8 to 15 grants, don't hire a grant writer. It's very expensive. A great grant writer is going to cost you anywhere between $1,200 to $1,500. It's because they work by the hour. And no, you can't put them into a grant because donors don't let you capture funds prior to the grant start. So that's why they can't write you into a grant. And so if someone's charging you $30 an hour to write a grant with a minimum of 50 hours to write it, that's a lot of money. Here's the alternative. Try writing it. Remember the Foundation Center?
Mm-hmm.
They have a proposal writing online workshop. Just go in there and just type it in. Instead of hiring a grant writer, hire a grant evaluator. And the reason why you're going to get the benefit out of the evaluator instead of the writer is because the evaluator is now going to assess, did you answer all of these questions, and give you the comments, which is now your training guide for when you do grants down the line.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So now let's add to the scenario. We've done all of the things. We've dotted our I's. We've crossed our T's. We've had a grant evaluator look at it. We actually went online. We did it ourselves. We went through the process. We're cleared. And how long now after submission does this actually take to take off? When we have found the grants that we're interested in, and now we're sending this paperwork out. And how is the paperwork sent out? Are we FedExing? Are we doing it digitally? So many things have changed. You got to fill in all of these questions.
Now it's mostly digitally, and it will take you anywhere from 6 to 12 months to get an answer on a grant. And that is because most grants have to go through a multi-step review process. Mm-hmm. And that means it's not just reviewed by the one individual whose name is send it to this person. The program officer is going to get it, review it, might have some questions, but ultimately it has to go before their board. And most boards don't meet every month. They meet quarterly. So that's why it takes that amount of time for them to get it prepared, get it before their board. Their board may have some questions. It might need to go back. Once the board approves it, then it's a matter of now getting all of the paperwork together for them to get you the money. So it's never going to happen within a month or 2 months. It's going to be at least 6 months to a year. And that's why I always tell people there are multiple ways in which to get your ideas funded. Grants is just one. Fundraising has so many other avenues that you can go into. Think about the Ice Bucket Challenge. The Ice Bucket Challenge was a fundraising idea. They raised over $200 million. And it was done word of mouth. You know, someone wanted to raise money, do a challenge. I'm going to, you give me $50 if I do this, it's going towards ALS. Yes. And they raised over $200 million. When our current president decided that he wanted to rescind DACA and he wanted to hold children, in camps, someone did a Facebook challenge to raise money. In 4 days, they raised $15 million. social media is one of the greatest tools for fundraising. And you don't need to do a lot, but you have to speak to people about donating to their passion. You share a passion. They're not going to donate just to a cause per se. They're donating to something that they relate to.
Got it. Got it. So is it okay, since we've changed the parameters again, in doing something that is social media related, is it better to generate activity in a group situation and then put the challenge out, or does the challenge cause the group to come together? Comes first, the chicken or the egg, is basically what we're dealing with here.
I think the challenge comes first. I mean, there, but people want, and here's the thing that's new in fundraising. People don't want to just give a check. They want to feel connected to the giving. They want to feel like, if I don't want to just, hand my money in and not know that people are being fed. I want to know that I'm helping a family, eat. I want to know that I'm helping a person learn a new skill that they can get a job. I want to know that kids love reading and it's helping them do better. I want to feel that kind of a connection. It's not disconnected. There's a connection between the giving and the purpose.
So how would you deal with that situation? Is it a question of inviting them to be interacting with the recipients, or how do you pull them closer from their checkbook into reality or physical as you're talking?
They want to know that story. They want to feel connected. So if you want them to give to your community garden, show them how the community garden is working.
Got you.
How getting the kids all excited and involved. Show them picking the vegetables and making the salad and sitting at the table. Show them, because now they're saying, this is what I'm having an impact. I'm making a difference.
Yeah. There's nothing like saying, I helped to do that. That's an amazing thing. I actually did that for Thanksgiving with a turkey drive, knowing that we were dealing with families that were having a hard time during the COVID situation. And I was amazed when I put it out to one company that was a restaurant in the city, that they were willing to give me the food, but then it just started growing and growing. And when one restaurant said, oh, well, I'm going to do it with ESP Speaks, and then turkeys came in, and then we had cans of that. It was really phenomenal. So I get that. I get what you're saying. But I want to jump into something else really quick, because I know, once again, you're on a time constraint. And as long as I want to keep you here, I know I can't. This is a biggie for me, because this is how you and I connected on this subject. I was looking for a building, and you kind of dropped in my ear what New York State or New York City was doing. I'm going to let you tell them about the New York City and the buildings. Go ahead. You take it from there. I was shocked when I heard this.
So people don't know how much property the city owns. They own a lot of property, and a lot of it just remains abandoned because most people just don't know. Most people just don't know that this place that they've been passing by is owned by the city. I want to do something. I should contact them. But they don't know who owns it. They just see that it's abandoned. Well, go to the city's Department of Buildings. You can get a list of all of the city-owned properties and know which ones are vacant. And for a lot of nonprofits, that's a way to get in and get that property that you want, because they want to see it being utilized. It's a beautification project for the neighborhood. They want to know that it's going to benefit people. So the New York City Department of Buildings has a list. If you don't get it from the New York City Buildings Department, you can definitely also get it from the Borough President's office. They also have a list of all of the property that is owned by the city. And you can get square footage, You can get how long it's been abandoned. You can get what state of repair it's in. And if you have a nonprofit, you can put a bid in for that property.
Is there a specific .com that they should go to, or are we talking about a generalized, just go to www.buildingsdepartment? Because the buildings department has several different flashes of their website, of web pages that you should muddle through. Is there a specific one that they should start at, or no?
I would start at, well, there's the Department of Buildings, but it's the city's website. So it's really not that easy to navigate. But here's a little trick that you can maneuver through. Every city council member is a part of a committee. Find the buildings committee of the city council and then see which members are part of either your district or your borough, and then contact them. It's a lot easier to make that one connected contact, and they will be able to direct you on how to maneuver through the Department of Buildings website. Also do that with the borough president's office. They will also be able to help you maneuver through the Department of Buildings website. And, you know, let's repurpose these buildings for good.
You know, Denise, I got to pull back a little bit, because you and I have been talking about this for about a week, and I have to ask you a question, and I specifically am asking you on air. I don't want to put you in a bad position, so if you can't answer it, please feel free to say, I don't want to touch that one. But with all of these buildings that the city has that are available or empty or could use a spruce up with construction, how come we have so many homeless people on the street and these people don't have any place to go? I'm not sure you can answer that from a political standpoint, but is this something that is a process for you as well?
There's many reasons. I guess the main reason is, even if the buildings are available, there's always the pushback from the community about certain types of businesses in their neighborhood. So that's one thing. I also don't think that a lot of the elected officials have presented the case for looking at addressing homelessness in a holistic manner. It's not just providing a roof over someone's head. They need more services, they need more resources. While they need the roof over their head, they also need the health. The health coverage. They need the health assistance. They need assistance with their children. They need educational training. They need they're not getting the benefits that they need. So sometimes we address a problem for one silo at a time, as opposed to looking at, creating a building where all of these issues can be addressed, because as individuals, we don't just have one problem. We have, it's like someone saying, my role is not just that of a daughter. I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a wife. So I operate in multiple streams. So that's how you need to address the homeless problem, that you need to address it from multiple streams. You can't put up a building and then put them so far away that they can't get the other services. Then they're not going to really want to live there. It's going to be too far to travel for all of the other services. Mm-hmm. And I think that with multiple buildings being available, especially, I've seen like 5 buildings vacant. Why can't that be utilized that way? Provide the health, provide the.
Well, I mean, that's a two-sided coin, because I hear what you're saying, and I empathize, because I've been in a community where they have shipped homeless in, and they have put them but they do it in certain areas, it seems, without thought. They bring a homeless men's shelter and plop it next to a brand new pre-K that they just opened. That doesn't make any sense, because there were some who were alcoholism, suffered from alcoholism, drug addicts. They weren't giving them the services that you're talking about. However, that's not the point of what I'm trying to say. The point of what I'm trying to say is, as it makes sense for us to say things like what you just said, but conversely, it's kind of ironic that they're ready to turn it into a multi-facility development and sell it as a condo where you're paying X amount of $1 million for a living space. So it's okay to have the ultra rich, but it's not okay to have the ultra poor in the same situation. I mean, that's kind of hypocritical. And maybe, again, I put you on a spot with saying that, but I just find it to be hypocritical. We should.
It's all, and you have to look at one of the things that and this is my personal opinion, elected officials are in office for a specific amount of time, especially in New York, they're term limited. So addressing the issue of the homeless is a long-term investment, an investment that still needs to be made. Selling that building is a short-term investment and gain, and it's happening on my watch, and I get credit for it. That's what they're weighing. They're not weighing what the benefit is going to be once they leave office, and even if it means that you reduce the homeless issue by 75% in 10 years. They're not looking at 10 years from now. They're looking at, I made the sale and I was able to bring in, 300 million, to the coffers. Mind you, that 300 million is going to be used up in 2 years. But that's how they're looking at it. We have to look at it, and it's an education, and it's an awareness, and it's really not a public relations, but I'm thinking about the Black Lives Matters. We know we've been dealing with, racial injustice for decades, but you know what? We didn't have the internet, 20 years ago.
That's right. The difference in what's happening then and now is that we have cameras and we have videos in our hands, and people are aghast at what they're actually seeing. But we brought this full circle because the education, the awareness, underlining those two phrases that you said, and that is why I wanted you to do this show with me today. The education and the awareness. We have now given 40,000 people who watch me on a regular basis an education and an awareness that says, now you know. So go and do it. And we're here with the information for you. I am so thrilled that you were able to come and sit with me and have this chat, Denise. It's just been an amazing joy. And I would like to ask if I can have you back.
I would love to come back.
Because I mean, we talk about things all the time in this venue, and there's just so much to say. We've only brushed the surface of what's going on here. So we're gonna we're gonna pull Denise back again, and maybe we can do it alive so you can ask her your own questions and we can go from there. It feels like I froze again. Did I freeze?
Yes.
I love it. How much of this did you hear me say?
I heard you, but your picture came up.
Okay. All right. We can deal with that. I mean, my audience knows that we're on Zoom, and Zoom, the most educated Zoom user becomes a fool at some point in the process, because the internet does what the internet does. Wi-Fi does what it does. So I work with it. Sometimes I edit it out. Sometimes I leave it alone. It's perfectly fine. We'll go with the flow.
That's
so
right.
Are there any last words that you want to add to this conversation before I let our family go for the evening?
There's nothing that you can't do. There's opportunities out there, there's funding out there, and there's help for you to marry both of them, your purpose and the money that you need to see your purpose come to life.
Wonderful. And we have you. So you know what? You're going to get a fleet of people calling in with more questions, and I'm going to send them all in your direction. I will put a point of contact for Denise up in our webpage. I'm not going to type it here because I don't know what she wants typed here. So, I mean, is there something that you want to give them? Because I would rather that they go to our site and get it programmed so you can see what you want, what you can help with before they start inundating you with phone calls and such.
I'll send that all to you.
Okay, so family, you heard it here. She's going to send us her information so we'll be able to contact her, and I will put it in our webpage. You have to go to our website, you have to like, you have to subscribe, and we're going to have her back in a couple of weeks to check up on us and give us some more information. But in the meantime, it's time for us to say goodnight again. And once again, Lady Denise, we are so happy that you were here. Thank you so much for coming and visiting.
Thank you for having me.
That was such a great interview, chock full of very important information. And I just want to thank you for stopping by and sharing with the family.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. And family, we're going to see you next week. But in the meantime, you know what I'm going to say. Be positive.
That's negative.
We'll see you next time on ESP
And
JAXS Speaks. Say goodnight, JAXS.
Good night, JAXS.